Michelle, you made it here to Franklin, Tennessee. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Came from Clarksville.
Yep.
We're going to have a good conversation today.
Great.
I'm really, really excited to share with you all today a little bit about Michelle's company, Berman Media, and your course that you teach and about your speaking. Mm-hmm. But first, just recently had your second little boy.
Sure did. 6 weeks ago. Yeah.
So you're working mom.
Very much so.
And you stay. Yeah. I see how busy you stay. How old is your other one?
4.5.
4.5. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, how's that been? Adding a new member to the family.
What a dynamic! Everyone says the older one is usually really good with the second one as long as you prep them.
Yeah.
And we've so far had that experience. He's very involved and wants to be helpful. And Mom, let me go do this. I want to help you with that. So I like the age gap. A lot of people warned me maybe the age gap's too big, or how do you feel about that? But I think the age gap has actually been a blessing in this case because there is no way to do both without an extra set of arms. There's just not. We
were talking about earlier was about what it's like having the second one. It's like the first one, you're driving around, somebody doesn't turn on their blinkers, like, hey man, I got a kid in the car. Yeah. The second one, picks up a cigarette butt, puts it in their mouth, and put that down, right?
Yeah.
First one, we would have sanitized them and everything. What is, beyond time management, like what is, having a little one and two little ones now, like, what does that teach you about business and what you do day to day?
It's a great question, and it's actually a lot in the last few weeks, I think, for me, what really ultimately matters and what doesn't. And I have a lot of friends that, they're chasing the next deal or how much more money can I go make in 2026 than I did in 2025. And I'm not saying that I don't want to make more money, but I think for me, I realized that I'm fine, right? Where I'm at, I'm really grateful, and I have enough money in the bank account to pay our bills, and what I can't get back is the holding my son, nursing and looking at him, and he's only got an hour a week window, right? Am I going to go work while he's awake, or am I going to love on him for the hour? And my priorities have just shifted, and I'm not saying I'm not chasing and don't want to grow, but I'm in a really special season right now that I'm just unapologetically living in. But the balance is one of those things for me as a high D and a very high performing individual. It's a hard balance, right? Because part of your brain is like, hey, go get the next thing. What's the next, cool new creation we can bring to market? Or what's the next big, opportunity that I want? But I'm in that weird season where the other side is telling me this is more important over here. So it's a dynamic. We're learning every day.
And we have to go through these circumstances, but mostly the difficult ones, to really see the value in that. I remember there was a time I went to Disney World. It was a very big inflection point in my life, and I got a random phone call, and I told my wife, I'm going to step out of line and take that phone call real quick, and then I'll come back because there's a long line wait at It's a Small World. And I stepped out of line. It was a realtor that doesn't call me that often, probably was just calling me on a Saturday because the other guy wasn't available. And I lost track of time, and I went to walk back, and I looked, and my kids were floating away with my wife in that boat, and all I saw was the back of their heads, and I broke down right there in the middle of Disney World. And I remember that moment. Tell us about a moment that maybe it wasn't like this precious season that you're in now, that it was more of a dark season that you had to really have one of those moments.
Yeah, I've had several, and I think the most imperative one to share is in 2024 was probably the biggest year as far as, people noticing who Michelle was. And I was getting text messages, Michelle, I feel like you're bursting on the scene. I feel like you're everywhere. And, you're getting all of these words of affirmation type texts that frankly I had been chasing for years. And I had my first son in 2021, and my husband and I had a plan to have another baby relatively soon. We didn't want to wait forever, but we also didn't want to do them back to back. We didn't want 12 months in between birth 1, birth 2. So we waited just a little bit before we started trying. Long story short, it took us a really long time to get pregnant, and we ended up getting pregnant in September of 2024. And I remember looking in my app, like the baby app where it says what your due date is when you put the date of your last period. And I was like, well, my due date would be June 6th of 2025. And I remember sitting there thinking, well, that's not good because I have 8 speaking gigs between September and the middle of November. So between September and November 15th, I had 8 paid booked speaking gigs that at that point in my career was like the catalyst of like, oh my gosh, I'm on the scene now. I finally quote arrived and people are starting to pay attention. So I'm sitting there in this weird, like I'm so excited and so grateful that we're pregnant. And then fast forward to I'm thinking about work.
Yeah.
And I was a little bit pissed at myself in that moment of just like, why do I care more about this than I do about this? And then 6 weeks later, you go to the doctor's appointment and you're sitting in the room waiting for them to call you back so you can get a heartbeat. And everything's great. Here's your confirmed due date, all the things. And I remember sitting in the room. My son wanted to go buy one of those stupid stuffed animals where you put like the heartbeat in it. And I kept saying like, Knox, we don't need that. We don't need that. And I don't know why. Because part of me was like, of course we should get that for him, right? Like cute. This is a cute $20 that is a worthless money, but like it's cute, right? But I just kept saying no and no, and in my gut I just felt like something was off, and I couldn't tell you what it was, but I knew something was off. Get in, first doctor's appointment, there's no heartbeat, and the next 6 weeks of my life were literal pure hell. Between doctor's appointments, blood draws, I had my blood drawn 24 times in a matter of about 6 weeks. My final blood draw, my son came with me, and he was sitting in the in the place where they take your blood. The phlebotomist was in there, and she kept missing because I had so many bruises on both arms, and I have a big tattoo on my right arm, my left arm. So she was trying to do it on my tattooed arm, which is, for a newer phlebotomist, a little bit difficult.
Right.
But she kept missing, and so she ended up having to stick me 3 times before she finally got just enough to get a blood draw. And my son was like, "You're really hurting my mommy." And so I just, at that point, I was done. I just ripped it out of my arm and was like, I'm good. What God's got this, whatever's going to happen here is going to be God's. But in that entire experience for me, I'm more worried about work, Shawn, than I am about what's going on with this baby. And then fast forward to November 15th, I'm sitting on a toilet in my bedroom, or in my bathroom, in my master bedroom, miscarrying. And I had my oh my gosh moment of just like, this should not matter. Like, why am I more concerned? My body was physically failing me, and I was more concerned about my bank account. And I just made a vow at that point in my thought of, God gives us messages to give us messages. And in that, for me, the message was nothing will ever be more important than raising a family and having children that I can love on, and as some of our friends would say, repopulate the earth with good humans. So for me, I made that decision at that point that no matter what, whenever we did get pregnant again, it would look a lot different.
Wow. So, like, in that moment, like, it obviously was a big pivot shift for you.
Huge.
And we're still always on the journey. Like, it doesn't just fix itself automatically. But, like, what did you start changing? Where did you see the tangible change in your life after that? 2
huge things. Number 1 is my husband and I had a very hard conversation around work for him. So my husband is a strength and conditioning coach for the military. He was for a long time, stationed here at Fort Campbell, former Green Beret, medically retired after a tour to Syria in 2018, and became a contractor for the Army to do strength and conditioning for the guys going into selection if they wanted to Ranger Regiment, wanting to do BRC, which is the best Ranger competition. So essentially the Olympics of the Army.
Wow.
He was their coach, and it was the coolest job for him. It was one of those dream jobs, but the red tape of the Army became very apparent a few years in, and we had only been married since 2019. So, not long at this point when he took this job. But with Knox being only, 3 at the time, my husband would leave at 4:50 a.m. and get home around 4 every afternoon and go straight into the garage to work out. So my marriage was struggling, not because we didn't love each other, but because we just never saw each other.
Right.
And it was very difficult for me because I'm also raising a baby by myself while also running a company by myself. And so on the outside, everyone's like, wow, Michelle, you got it all together. On the inside, I was dying.
Yeah.
And so we had a really hard conversation as husband and wife at that point. And I said, babe, I love you, and I love that you love your job, but it's not worth the money that you're making if it's going to ruin our marriage.
Right.
And frankly, you have no relationship with your son in the extent that you want to have.
Right.
And my husband's very present when he was home, super present, right? But you just don't have enough hours in the day. So I looked at him and I said, I think we need to have a conversation around, like, are you going to continue to do this? And he had been having that little birdie in the back of his mind already. And so we made a decision right there in November of 2024, the same month that I lost our second child, that he was going to retire from corporate Army H2F life by the end of 2025. Well, what ended up happening was, I'm sure we'll get to that part of the story, but I ended up retiring Dave April 1st of 2024. So
Wow.
almost 8 months prior, ahead of our scheduled
Amazing.
time, because of the other side of that, which is the other message that God gave me in the middle of that. So that was the number one. That was the biggest one. And when you take that variable out, I have more support. I can work the extra hour a day that I need. He's more present. Our marriage is better. Our relationship with God is better. All of things are better, and therefore work is better, right?
Good for you guys.
That was the big one.
That is amazing. And that's going to be a gift that he's going to look back, and your husband, he's probably already grateful and thankful for it. But, in 20 and 30 years, or when your kids are like, mine are teenagers now, he'll look back and say, that was a special moment. I'm so glad that happened, because it forced him, it questioned the current circumstances to allow him to say, you're right. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think, do you think enough relationships have tough conversations like that?
Absolutely not.
It seems like a lot of people avoid them, don't they?
100%. And I can probably name 10 friendships I have right now that avoid it.
So let's talk a little bit about how that translates into your day-to-day.
Yeah.
And what you did to help retire him.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
And
he does work full-time, but just from home now.
Right.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have to go and leave.
Nope.
And doesn't have to go and travel. And
that's great.
He's a hero too. He's not only a hero for what he did, but if he was my father, I'd say he's just as much of a hero for having the bravery to do what he's doing. Mm-hmm. That's awesome, because we get so much identity as men out of our careers. How does that translate into? Tell us a little bit about what you do day to day. Tell us about your media company.
Yeah.
Talk to us about your courses, and I want to know, once you kind of give us, give our viewers a little bit of what you do and what you're about. How did this kind of translate into what you do every day?
That is the second thing that ultimately was born out of the miscarriage, right? So in order to do what I did for my husband, and in order to save my company, because there's another dark part there that I didn't speak to, that I don't speak on hardly at all, if ever, which is that in February of 2024, I had hired a friend of ours that we both know, to help with my speaking and to really help identify what is Michelle really good at. And at the time I had a woman who was working with me that was my best friend. I mean, our sons were 24 hours apart, literally. Wow. Her wife and I had CrossFitted competitively together for a decade prior to me hiring her wife to be my COO. So there was a lot of interwoven connection between the two of us. I mean, this was my best friend. And she called me about 8 weeks after that and told me on a Friday night, I was in the middle of brushing my teeth, because I could see it right now in my mind, that she was leaving and she was going to go work for someone else, and I couldn't match the salary. There was no way. And I remember sitting on all fours, literally on all fours, bawling my eyes out in my office, thinking I have no idea what I'm going to do. Because this is the person that is my right arm when it comes to growing the company. Growth wise over the last year had been remarkable. I mean, just out of this world. And I don't want to say it was because of her, but I certainly would say the two of us together were a hell of a team. And I love her to this day. We've remained friends, but it was difficult, very difficult. But in that process, I ended up hiring someone too quickly, and that was the wrong person to hire, come to find out. And in the 6 months after that, so after this woman left, I went from being in the green every single month, having a thriving, growing company, to within 6 months in November, when I was actively miscarrying, I looked at my bank account and I had less than $7,000 left in my business bank account, and payroll was 14.
Oh my gosh.
So how that happened so quickly, I can't tell you. I don't know, Shawn, frankly. It was overnight I woke up and I was like, oh my God, where did all my money go? Yeah. And I had to really sit down and think, what did I do wrong here? I made a major mistake, and what was that? And what I discovered was that I was trying to be everything to everyone, and I had hired too fast, and I wasn't paying attention to variables that needed to be paid attention to. And we don't need to dissect that. But that day, looking at my bank account thinking, oh shit, I cannot pay payroll if I don't go find $15,000, right? Meaning as an entrepreneur, a commission-based employee, we have to go find money every single day. You wake up and you have to go find money. And my back was against the wall, and I had this thought in my head, like, I work with loan officers all day, every day, right? That's my primary clientele. And I thought to myself, how many loan officers, which I know you probably know this better than anybody, how many loan officers have had to go back into origination over the last few years out of getting out of leadership and having to go back into origination, right? And all of a sudden, Shawn, I was sitting there thinking, that's me now, right? I was the CEO of the company. Our company was killing it. And guess what? My iron's in the fire now, and I have to go figure it out. I have to go prove that I can do what I've been telling everybody else to go do.
Door-to-door sales, baby.
So that is exactly what I did. And from November to March, I did not miss a day of prospecting, ever. I sent a message on Saturday. I sent a message on Sunday. Every single day, without fail, I was outbound prospecting through LinkedIn and Instagram without fail. And in that was the birth of my signature program, which is called Drivers and Leavers, which is how to outbound prospect through social. So I'm not saying don't call or text or email, but what I teach specifically is how to outbound prospect using social as the vehicle, because we're all on social anyway.
Correct.
Right? So, but most people who are using social can't figure out why they can't create revenue from it. And I love what you do. And obviously there's so much synergy between the two of us, but most people will create content and they sit on this hamster wheel of content thinking that's going to make them money. It's not.
No.
Right? So I come in and I say, hey, your content's either needs fixed, call Shawn, or you need to learn how to prospect, call me. Right?
Right.
And that's where I come in and I save the day. But it was born out of, oh shit, I have no choice.
Wow.
Or else I will have to fire 6 full-time employees that I was paying their bills.
Yep.
Right? And on top of that, I would have had to sacrifice a company that I had built from scratch in 2014 and been able to be a full, not stay-at-home mom by any means, right? But like a full-time mom, full-time business owner, making my own schedule. I did not work for anybody else. I had my own career that I had created. That was in question at that point.
You know, it's as you tell me that story, I just think, try to put myself in your shoes, and we've got to know each other, and I know you're a woman of integrity and faith, and when God knows that, He's not afraid to put our backs up against the wall, because we have integrity and faith. We don't fire 6 people. We put our boots on in the morning and we get up. Where there's a lot of people, they were just like, they would have folded the doors. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, and not realize there's 6 people with 6 families and 6 rents or 6 mortgages. The pressure of that, and a lot of people, they'll tell me, they'll be like, well, what's it like having a team? Like, what's it like being a manager, a boss? I don't really know about a lot of that. I'm really just a great sales guy who leads by example. But I'll tell you what, having 18 mouths to feed and knowing that they have kids and they have houses, it doesn't give me the option to get up in the morning and say, I'm just not going to go to work. Mm-hmm. But I was built that way, Mm-hmm. So you're exactly right. This is how we met, because, Content Creator University teaches people the tactics and the tools and, the basics and the 101 and the 102. But the thing I can't do is I can't leave my community and follow somebody to their office and be like, okay, now, are you doing the work? Which is what you do. So tell us some more about your course and exactly how you help these primarily loan officers out there, which is your avatar, right?
Yeah.
Is loan officers that are trying to grow in digital.
Essentially anyone in sales and entrepreneurs, but I specialize in the mortgage industry.
Okay.
Why? I couldn't tell you, just like everybody else when they get in the mortgage industry. I don't know, right? But one of those, I sort of fell into it in 2019. And then the very first podcast I was ever on, the first 2 podcasts I was ever on, both were in the mortgage industry or in the mortgage space. Mortgage Marketing Radio with Jeff Zimfer was one of those 2, and man, I love that guy. I'm about to do a podcast takeover for him since he's still not got his voice back. So I just love him, and he's one of those people I look back on very just with the biggest smile on my face, like how far he's come, how far we've come since knowing each other, and all of that. But anyway, so I fell into the mortgage space, but the avatar, yes, it's essentially anyone who's in sales and entrepreneurs who have no choice but to go make money on their own.
Well, you didn't fall into it. God led you to it because you have a servant's heart of helping people, especially with the things you've gone through. And you just saw that we're just a bunch of misfits out there,
Me too.
And she's going to tell you a little bit more specifically about what she does. Yeah. But let me tell you something real quick. I hit a wall. Like, I thought learning how to post to social media, do the thing that everybody else is doing. Like, I thought that would just lead me to success if I did it more than anybody else or I did it better than anybody else. And I want you to listen really carefully to what she has to say here in a moment, because I don't want this to happen to you. Social media, and I see a lot of people doing it right now, they're doing it to try to help their business, try to help their revenue. Number one, it's hurting because they're just taking a lot of slop and throwing it up there.
So bad.
But the second thing is they're putting emotional collateral into it that they should not be putting into it. And in 2020, right after COVID, I had a moment on a Sunday morning, and I like to go for a drive on a Sunday morning in my car early, because then I don't have to worry about waking up the girls before church and all that. It's like 7 a.m. and I get to see, just drive the country roads. And I'll come back home. And, I'm not afraid to tell this. I've told my story this before, but, I had a marijuana addiction because I was just trying to numb the pain in my life from disappointing people and stuff. And so I got going on that Sunday morning, going for a ride in my sports car, back roads. And there was a moment that God met me right there in the car. And I just told myself, I said, you're miserable. You have everything you want. You got the house, you got the business, you got the wife, you got the kids. And you are more miserable than you've ever been. And the reason why was I was trying to please 8 billion people. Everything I posted, everything I put up, everywhere that I went. And it drove me to this dark place where I lost myself. And I think a lot of people in the mortgage industry right now will not admit it. I see it on a daily basis that they're trying to be the part, whether it's the Instagram, real estate agent, modeling, or whether it's the guy that's trying to be cool and crass and please be with everybody, and they're headed down a really dangerous path. So listen to what she has to say here, because what she does is she actually shows you how to convert that into business while being the person that you should be.
Yeah,
right?
For sure. And just thank you for sharing that too. There's a Jordan Davis song called Church in a Chevy, if you haven't heard it.
Yeah, it's a good song.
It's a great song, and listening to you tell that story, that's the first thing that popped in my mind. That song is, I went to church in a Chevy, and he's driving back roads and he meets God in his windshield. I met God on a toilet, which is far less exciting than that. But the truth is, it doesn't matter where we meet him, right? It just matters that we do. But for me, I specialize in teaching people how to outbound prospect. So what does that mean? That means I'm posting really good content, which we can talk about. But I'm not stopping there. And I think that's where most people stop, right? And also, most people feel the need to post every single day. Oh, well, I have to post twice a day, every day on every platform because the Gary Vee thing, right? And Gary Vee's brilliant. We get it. But the truth is that that's not attainable for most humans.
Correct.
It's just not.
Correct.
And for me, I post 2 to 3 times a week across multiple platforms, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, or LinkedIn. Those are really the big 3 for me right now, especially.
Yep.
2 to 3 times a week is, I can manage that, I can handle it, and it's what I want it to be, right? Meaning I'm aligned with what's going out when it goes out. I'm not just throwing it out to say I threw it out. You'll also never catch me dead with stock Canva content ever, right? Which that's a whole nother thing.
Or company content.
Or your in-house marketing content. Please God, turn it off, right? But again, the point is you cannot stop there, right? If you fix your content and you have the ability to, or how should I say it? If you have the cadence down where you are consistently showing up and you like your content, you feel like you're a human in there, which I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I love fitness, all the things, right? All of that is going to come out in my content. But where I really want people to think about it, this is the X's and the O's, right? Think of it from that perspective. Now, the overall what you're supposed to do. Now let's have the playbook of how to take it to the next step. And for me, the X's and the O's is send one message every single day without fail. One message every single day. That is it. That is how simple what I teach ultimately is on a granular level. And people are like, hold on, Michelle, there's got to be more to this than that. Like, what am I missing? You're not missing anything. It's literally, I'm telling you to send one message every single day without fail. But how do we get there, right? How do we determine who to message, what to say, all of those things? Probably the number one thing I hear is, Michelle, what do I say?
Yes.
And with that, there's a lot we could unpack there. But the truth of the matter is there's 2 things I want people to pay attention to. Number one, you have to know what your drivers are, which is why my signature homework assignment is actually called Drivers and Levers.
Okay.
But you have to know what your drivers are. And what does that mean? That means, what do I have to do on a monthly basis every month in order to generate opportunity for myself.
Okay.
Notice I did not say the word leads.
Yes.
I do not promise leads at all.
Right.
Because it's not my job to give that to you. It's your job to go create the opportunity for yourself so that you can then go get the lead.
I hate the word leads, by the
Same.
way.
It's like the Voldemort.
What are we? A bunch of car salesmen? Like they're referrals.
But that's
right?
also how people talk on social is
Yeah.
like car salesmen, which that's the point I want to unpack too.
Like we don't say leads in the office. We say referrals.
Yeah.
We don't say deals. We say clients. Right.
Because they're people.
Yeah,
They're people.
Absolutely.
So the drivers, right? What are the things that drive opportunity into your business? So if it's me and you, right, Shawn, we're very similar here. Podcast is one. I love going on podcasts. I have my own podcast. I love having people on my show because it gives you the opportunity to get with people that are like-minded that could create opportunity for you. It also gives you the opportunity to go one-to-many, which is what we need,
Absolutely.
right? So that's number one for me. The other big driver for me is speaking. I love speaking. I love being in a room full of energetic people. And then the third one for me is webinars. I have to go and be a guest on people and do webinars for people in order to give myself the opportunity to get in front of the people that could then in turn hire me. So those are the three drivers for me. Now for a loan officer, how many realtor lunches, how many realtor meetings do you need to have, right? That's just one example. Another good one is how many open houses, if you're a newer loan officer. I have a client I'm working with right now. She goes to 5 open houses every month where she goes and sits in, but she does broker open style as opposed to just traditional open house, which I love, right? It's kind of brilliant, honestly. And then the other one that I thought was really interesting is I have a loan officer who meets with different vendors that are doing 5Ks or 10Ks or city runs. And he becomes the sponsor for the runs. So that's his one-to-many opportunity because he gets in front of other runners. He's a runner. He wants to work with other people that are like-minded.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome, right? But a driver is an opportunity that you have to have on a monthly basis that puts you in front of the opportunity that you need. How many realtor lunches, how many realtor meetings if you're recruiting, right? How many meeting number ones do you need to have? How many meeting number twos do you need to have on a monthly basis to get the conversion number that you want, right? So that's the driver. Every person's going to be different. That's what we have to unpack for that person. Then the next thing is leverage, right? So what is or who is your lever? And by definition, I don't know what Wikipedia says. I don't care. But what Michelle says is a lever is your ability to build a bridge between that person to get to somebody that you don't know, right? Meaning you're using that person as a bridge to build a new relationship with somebody else. But with the message of what do you say to somebody, you have to have the driver identified and defined. Because if you send a message with no intent, the person on the receiving end is going to tell that you have no idea what you actually want out of the conversation. And they're not going to care because they're going to be like, I don't have time for that. Right. Number 2 is you have to use leverage. And you have to use leverage properly with a true personal connection. And this is all psychological stuff. I could go nerd out on all of that with you, but we don't have time to go into that much depth. But the neurological side of it and the psychological side of it is if I'm going to say, I got this message from Shawn, I should respond to it. You have to give me a reason to respond to it. And how does that happen? If I name drop someone that you have a relationship with and I explain my personal connection to that person that I'm using as leverage to get to you, if you read my message and you feel that personal connection is genuine and true, you're going to be like, well, how did I not know Michelle?
Right.
And so the idea is that when I get when I send a message, that the person on the receiving end should almost feel guilty if they don't respond to me because it was so well written and the personal connection piece is so identified. So if I just say, hey, Shawn, I'd love to jump on a call with you and see if there's some synergy between the two of us, you're like, I don't have time for that, right? I don't even know who you are.
Right.
But if I say, hey, Shawn, I'd love to jump on a call with you. I actually just got off a call with X, Y, and Z, who I saw you recently did X with. Her and I are doing X together. And she thought that you and I might have some synergy. Are you available for a call next Tuesday?
Right.
You're going to say yes to me because all of a sudden you're like, well, she's connected to her and I just did that with her and she's doing this with her. How do her and I not know each other?
I also don't want to like ghost you or say no and have you go back to that person and say, yeah, Shawn's kind of a jerk. He didn't even respond to me, right?
Bingo.
So you make me think about this time that it smacked me in the face when, I was just in the same thing where just grow the audience, get the views, get the clicks, get the likes, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting in this room of people at this mastermind and this guy that's speaking, he goes, so I want to ask you a question. What do you want your marketing and social media to do? Well, I'm kind of like, well, we want sales, right? And he's like, What I mean is, what do you really, if somebody goes to your page, you need to put yourself in the other person's shoes, not your shoes, not talk to them, be the person on the receiving end. When I go to that page, what do I want it to do for me? And I don't know why, Michelle, that was a big light bulb moment for me, because I was just kind of doing what everybody else was doing, listening to the same people, the same Gary Vee stuff, just post. And I was exhausted because I was posting 5 times a week. I had good videos, all of that, but it wasn't doing anything.
Nope.
And that moment was a big shift. So let's talk a little bit about, like, you talk about the drivers and the levers, right?
Yeah.
So, but let's really break it down for people.
Sure.
Like, where do they need to, first they need to just take a life hack and go hire somebody that has already been through it all and can help them avoid all that. But number 2, like, I'm sitting at my desk, I'm listening to this today, my social media is okay. What's the first thought process they need to start going through?
Ask themselves the question of, what do you need to do on a monthly basis? You got to look at your business as a whole. Right? Meaning, we're not even looking at social, we're looking at our P&L.
Right.
Right? What's on our P&L and what things drive money into my bank account, literally.
Right.
And get really granular, right? So if you're a loan officer and you need to go close a loan, in order to get a loan, how many realtors do you need to have in your cell phone every day? Right. Meaning, how many phone calls from realtors do you need on a Saturday to make sure you're closing, or not Saturday, that I didn't mean it that way, but you get what I mean. Like, how many realtors in general do you need to have in your database in 30 days send you a deal in order for you to close 5 loans next month, which is your whatever number your number is. And I have a client who her goal right now is to get 5 loans per month. She's a newer loan officer, 27, and she's killing it. But I had that conversation with her. I said, Callie, how many realtors do you need to be talking to that are not currently sending you business on a monthly basis in order to get to that 5 number? Essentially, what's your batting average, right? And she said, 10 is my number. I said, great. Okay. So if you know that you need to go talk to 10 agents on a monthly basis that are not currently sending you any business, meaning you do not have a deal or a file in your pipeline from that agent, then how many messages do you need to send on a monthly basis to get to the 10?
So you're saying, like, you got to break it down to a scoreboard and a formula.
Yes, truly.
And I'll challenge, I'd love that, by the way, but I'll challenge those the 10 a little bit, not you, but loan officers in general, is 70%, 7 out of 10 loan officers didn't close a deal last year, 70%. So the numbers have changed, what they were a couple of years ago versus now. And so bringing it back to the social media and exactly what you do, I think that not only do people first, they need to start with, how many eyeballs do I need to be in contact with on a monthly basis in order to have an opportunity to meet, based on my conversion rate, the number of clients I want to help every month. But then the next step that they underestimate is the power of social media and the leverage of events and webinars. And so I want to talk about that a little bit, because if you have a lower percentage of people closing, helping people, close homes, you have to increase the number of people you're prospecting to. Well, do you want to go and have 10 more lunches every month at $50 to $75? I mean, lunches are getting expensive. Or do you want to have 7 more coffees a week? Or would you rather integrate more into your business the fact that thousands of people can put their eyeballs on you monthly? Dozens of people can come to your event that you might host. Like, do you feel like people doing what you do and working with loan officers, that they just don't really understand that most of them are secret agents? Like, most people don't know anything about them just because posting once a week or sending one DM.
I can tell you probably 20 loan officers that I know in my head right now that are very dominant, doing a lot of files every month. They're great loan officers that I can't find them anywhere.
Yeah, I know a lot.
And you can say this might get me some tomatoes thrown at me, but you can say you're really busy and you can say that you're doing so much business you don't need it. I call bullshit, because frankly, I think that gives you even more of a reason to have a presence. Right. Because if not, why is the 1 or 2 loan officer that's, trying to fight for their first deal, why do they need? In their mind, they're going to say, I don't need it because that person doesn't have it and he's killing it.
Right.
So they justify the lack of need based off of what's going on someone else's lawn.
That's until some
So.
loan officer that started 3 years ago that has a really killer,
Exactly.
a social media page, all of a sudden steals one of their best realtors.
Exactly.
And that's the power.
Because you're available for me to stalk, right?
Right.
As weird as that sounds. And
You got a better digital resume.
but people are spending. I was on a call yesterday. I'm not even kidding you, with a veteran-based lender, a big box lender that specializes in VA loans, and they spent $50,000 on a website. And I went to their social. I'm not going to name the company, but I went to the social, and every social graphic was Canva, every single one. And even worse, Shawn, every single one of them was fake views, fake likes, and it was so obvious.
That's the trifecta right there.
Here's the thing, right? You spent $50,000 on a website that nobody's going to click on because nobody's clicking on that URL from your social because it's all crap. And I just, in my mind, I'm thinking, like, why are people still spending so much money on websites when they could be focused on genuine, authentic content that can be shot with your cell phone to create a one-to-one relationship with someone on the other end of that screen?
Right.
And then how do they not see the value in sending a message to one person every day, which is what I do. I mean, just on my way, not on my way here, but this morning getting ready to come here, right? I have a non-negotiable. I prospect every single day without fail because I never want to go back to that place where I'm sitting there looking at, I got $7,000 left in my bank account, or else I have to close my shop and fire 6 employees who I love. Right. So I don't ever miss prospecting, whether or not I have $150,000 in my bank account or whether I have 7. Right. So for me, it's one of those like non-negotiable things, but most people do not understand that prospecting, which is the next layer that I wanted to bring up, right? Which is prospecting is not reactive. It's not here saying, oh, someone commented on something, so I commented back. It's not, oh, someone sent me a message, so I responded. That's reactive prospecting. That's not outbound prospecting.
Right.
So outbound prospecting to a loan officer is, oh, how many realtors did you call, or how many past clients did you call? I'm telling you, if you have call reluctance and you have issues with, people just hang up on me, which a lot of people have, then you don't need to do that. You really don't need to do that. Because how can you overcome the ew, gross, this is hard and I don't want to do that feeling? Send one message every single day through Facebook, through LinkedIn, through Instagram, and talk to people. Talk to people. Name drop an individual that you have a relationship with that can help you build the bridge to that person you're trying to send a message to, and establish a personal connection and have a clear, identifiable, this is what I want out of this conversation. And then the most important thing is a time anchored call to action, which is if I'm going to say, hey, Shawn, are you available? I'm not going to say, hey, Shawn, are you just available next week?
No, terrible.
And this is just sales, right? I'm going to say, hey, Shawn, I actually have Tuesday morning open between 10 and 11. Does that work for you?
Yes.
Yeah.
One of my game changers, I scheduled 161 realtor appointments through Instagram last year in 90 days. And out of 161, 159 of them drove to my office and had either lunch or coffee right here. And it was all off this one tactic. I went ahead and I would send a DM. Obviously, I built some credibility because they were seeing my post. I was putting them up. But I would go ahead and I'd just send a DM and I'd say, Michelle, I love the effort that you're putting forward. I've been doing the same thing. If you're ever near the Cool Springs area, I'd love to have you come by. I can have my assistant ordering some lunch. We'll get out the whiteboard and maybe mastermind a little bit. Mm-hmm. I said, this link will give you access to my calendar so you could pick a day that's best for you. Mm-hmm. And they would click the link and the friggin' appointments would come in over and over and over. I mean, it would get to the point that some days I had 2 lunches. I had them back to back. Mm-hmm. And there's these little things that people, they know can be possible, but they're not doing it, because they're not embracing the suck. Mm-hmm. They're not embracing the part that, yes, it sucks to post content and have 14 people like it, Yes, it sucks to put something up and have somebody say, oh, you look silly in that, right? It's easier to go and just put up the cookie cutter Canva and company post, right?
Yeah. Oh, I checked the social media box today.
It's easier to buy the followers. First of all, there's no shortcuts in life. So stop it, right? There's no shortcuts in life. And they're just, what they don't realize is they're actually doing the exact opposite they want. I had a guy who is legitimately a great guy, and he was doing almost exactly what you just said. And I was talking to him, and I said, "Can I tell you something and be really honest?" He goes, "Yeah." And I said, "I know that you bought some followers." He goes, "Well, I didn't mean to. I got in this Discord group." I said, "Either way," I said, "I don't think you intentionally mean to deceive people, but you want to know what my perception is?"
Not good.
My perception is you're a man of integrity, yet you've got all your likes and views like hidden, and you've got 750,000 followers, and you got 14 14 no comments on your stuff and a few likes.
It's
I said,
equating.
it's causing me to question your integrity. Right?
Perception
And I
is
don't think
reality.
people know that. They don't know that. Like, even if they didn't buy followers, if they're just posting what everybody else does all the time, again, it causes me to question your creativity,
Or lack thereof.
your willingness to try new things.
Yeah.
Like, right? I mean,
Yeah.
no realtor is going to look at your cookie cutter mortgage company post or Canva post and say, "Oh man, that guy's a game changer." He thinks outside the box.
Nope.
Right?
So my favorite quote, because I don't want to forget it, my 6-week postpartum brain is going to forget it if I don't say it right now. But my favorite quote I have ever said, I talk about it heavily in my book, and I would love to say that piece because it's around me and you being high performers. But the quote itself is, "Discipline is not a noun, it's a verb," right?
Wow.
Discipline, and I don't even know how I came up with it. It just popped out of my mouth one day, and I was like, damn, that was good. But discipline is not a noun, right? It's not a person, place, or thing. It's a verb, meaning it's a thing that you must do every day. You must make the decision.
Right.
And I know we haven't talked about this, but I was a Division I athlete for my entire college
Really?
career. I started swimming competitively at the age of 5.
Wow.
Swam all through college. Swam for Rutgers, if anyone's familiar with RU. But and I grew up in Southern California. Swam my entire life. I don't even know a day where that wasn't my life. But the thing about it is, I feel like I learned what discipline meant before I even knew what it meant. Like, I learned it before I knew that that's what I was learning.
Right.
And on top of it, if anyone's familiar with swimming, I swam the mile. So I didn't swim the 50 free. I didn't swim the 100 free. I swam the mile. Right. And if you look at the math of this race, and I love talking about this because it just makes me want to go swim again, even though I run now. But the 50 freestyle, the average elite female is doing that between 21 and 23 seconds. Think about that. 21 to 23 seconds for a 50 free. The average elite female is swimming the mile in 16 to 17 minutes. So what's the difference between the individual, right? And we talk about this in mortgage all the time, right? We talk about longevity and can you survive the curves and can you survive COVID and come out, like everybody crushed it during COVID, but can you survive COVID on the backside?
Right.
Right? Can you survive everything that's happening? And, whether we like it or not, the business world is cyclical and it's going to keep happening. And I always say, like, my company, you, Shawn, we've talked about this offline and off the record, but like the ability for us to survive that is because we have the discipline to do the crap that nobody else wants to do.
Right.
And we don't make excuses for it, right? Oh, I can't send a prospecting message today. Why?
Right.
Oh, well, did you go get Starbucks today? Because you're holding a Starbucks cup. So you were in line waiting for your Starbucks, were you not?
Right.
How many of us have kids that we have to go to pick up or drop off? All of us. I got a 4.5-year-old that's about to start kindergarten, right? I'm going to be in drop off. The stupid line.
People go places and don't talk to people.
But how many people go to the bathroom every morning, Shawn? Every single one of us, right? So if you're going to sit there and say, I don't have time to send one prospecting message that can change my life, I don't believe you. And so I think for me, I look at, hey, you're in your situation. My social's not making me money. I've spent XYZ amount of money every single month and I can't figure out why it's not working. And then you call Shawn or you call me. If you're a loan officer listening to this, right, they call you and they say, Shawn, why is my social not working? But you tell them why it's not working and they're not willing to do anything about it. That's their fault. That's not your fault.
Right.
Right. So if you're looking at your social content and all you're posting is your in-house marketing content that doesn't have your face on it, that has just got way too much words on it, then don't be surprised when you're frustrated that your content's not converting. Because if I'm looking at that or you're looking at that and you're saying, hey, you got to stop doing that and I want you to do this, this, and this, and then I tell you send one message every single day and you're not willing to do that, then the only person you get to blame at night for having your social cost you money every single month on your P&L is you.
Have you ever heard, there's those 4, it makes me think of those 4 things that people say, and I'm going to butcher this up, but it's like unconsciously unaware, unconsciously aware, consciously unaware. And then consciously aware.
Yeah.
Like, people are consciously aware of the fact that they need to prospect,
Yeah.
but they're unconsciously aware of what that either leads to or doesn't lead to, right? You know, I think a lot of people, like, they hear what we teach and what we're trying to help them with, because that's what we're doing. We don't need to, share everything. We do it because we want to, right? Talk to me about mindset a little bit. So I just see a lot of people that, like, they want to know all the tactics. They want to know what they need to be doing. But it really, doesn't it just boil down to like two things? It's mindset and sales skill.
Yeah. It doesn't matter if you're not going to do anything with it.
Right.
You and I could sit here and you could give away every ounce of information you've ever created and give it to them in a 20-page PDF. Here's everything you could ever want to learn how to do social better. I could give drivers and leavers away and say, here's this QR code, download it and go do it. But the amount of people that will actually do it is staggering, right? Meaning maybe 1 out of every 100 that hear us in a room, maybe.
Yep.
And I always I love when I say this. Sometimes I'll be like, and if you're the one, I want you to message me on Instagram or message me on LinkedIn and tell me that you did it. Like, I want to see it. Because that matters, right? So I think mindset for me, I just think it's one of those things I look at myself internally every day and I say, can I go to bed at night? Can I lay my head on my pillow and say, I did a good job today and that I did everything that I was supposed to do in order to support my family, to be a good mom, to be a good wife, did I touch base with a friend that needed to hear from me today, right? Like, I ask myself, I have my boxes in my head. Did I talk to God today? Which, ironically this morning, my son walks into our bedroom and I was in the bathtub because it just sounded like the right thing to do this morning. And I'm talking to God in the bathtub and my son is like, Mom, what are you doing? And I was like, Mom is having quiet time and I'm talking to God. But it's like, that was my moment. I had to check that box for me to go and have a good day. But I have the mindset of, if I can check those boxes and lay my head on my pillow every night knowing I check those boxes, then I had a good day. Right. Does it mean that I made money today? Maybe, maybe not.
Right.
But that doesn't matter because I checked the 4 or 5 boxes that are in my head that are required of me to be a good mom, to be a good wife, to be a good friend.
Yeah.
Right. And to ultimately be a good leader to my team.
Yeah.
And so for me, mindset is more so about how do I want to feel versus like, what do I make other people do today? Right.
So you're consciously aware of what you need to do to control that mindset. But you're unconsciously unaware of what that outcome's really going to be.
Yeah, you have no idea.
But when most people, what they want to do is they want to do something knowing what the outcome is, but they want to ignore the things that they know they have to do. Like
logical procrastination.
Absolutely. And I can't harp on this enough. And the reason why I brought up mindset is just because I feel like this is the crux for a lot of people, because if their mindset doesn't start right, it just trickles into everything else, including their relationship at home and everything. And, for being somebody who's like extremely ADHD, like if I don't have something that's easy to remember every single day, then I know that I'll start it and I probably won't finish it, right? So having that routine, knowing what those boxes are, it's not complicated, but when you're doing something that makes you a better person. When you're doing something that makes you a better spouse. When you're being a better leader, right? And so I know if I get up at the same time every day, I'm going to feel better, right? It starts with my health. I mean, I lost my dad to mental health. I've lost lots of close people to physical health. I'm like, without that, I can't do any of this.
I mean, think about having kids, right? There's a reason why they say routine is everything, especially with newborns. And I'm in the midst of the newborn phase. Pick your kid up at the same time every day, put him to bed at the same time every night. Like, there's a reason that we learn those things, and it's not just because it sounds cool. Right. But it's because it truly, truly works.
What are a couple more of those boxes that you check, that you have to keep doing, beyond working out, beyond having your conversation with God?
So working out is high on the list because how many of us, we just feel gross if we don't. The other big one for me is I send a text to somebody, a friend, every single day just because I'm thinking of them. So like if I'm driving somewhere and I'm like, I was thinking about Claire today, I'm just going to voice note her right there as I'm feeling it Because if not, I'm going to forget, right? How many of us are like, oh, I got to go do this task and that task, and then you forget. So I have a vow to myself of just, I want to be a really good friend. And in order to be a really good friend, that means I have to text them when I'm thinking about them so that it actually happens. That's it, super important. And then really quality time with both my kids every day is very difficult with my schedule at the moment. But, you know, the psychology behind being a present parent says that we really only need one 15-minute pure 100% eye to eye with your kid per day in order for you to have an amazing relationship with your children.
Right.
I would take a, you know, error on the side of maybe 2 or 3 is my goal, but I have a mandatory 15 minutes a day. I'm locked eyes with Knox, and that kid knows that I love him and that I'm going to hang out with him.
That's
because
so
one day he said to me, I'll never forget it. He said, "Mommy, how come you don't play with me that much anymore?"
Oh.
And I was holding Nathan, my newborn, and I was like, oh, I got away from that thing that I know I have to do.
For a brief moment.
Brief moment or not, right? It was that like gut punch of just like, oh crap, right? Which is another reason why like that's a non-negotiable for me. But the other one is the prospecting. And I say that because this is important. I have a team, and that team is working harder than I am right now because I'm technically still sort of on maternity leave. And I tell my team when I'm doing the prospecting and when the good thing happens, like, let's say we get a webinar booked, or let's say somebody calls us and says, Michelle, we want you to come speak. I tell my team that. Why? Because I feel like leadership is showing them that while they're working hard, I'm not going to stop working just because they're doing it for me.
Lead by example.
100%. And I remember having the conversation before I went on maternity leave with all my team saying, you know, guys, I love you. I appreciate you. I totally trust you wholeheartedly, but I'm not going to just stop trying while I'm, you know, on leave. The prospecting is going to keep happening. And the girls would be like, Michelle, you really don't need to do that. I'm like, no, yeah, I do. Right. And when we do get a win, it's a we won. It's not a Michelle got this.
Right.
It's a I did this because your paycheck is important to me, and I want to make sure that you get to go buy the house. Like when 3 of my 6 employees have been able to buy homes since they've worked for me for the first time in their lives. One is 36 and just bought her first house.
Wow.
Like that's a reflection for me where I look back and I'm like, that was worth everything, right?
Yeah.
To be able to say a 36-year-old is now finally buying her first home because she actually has the money to do it.
So recap what you just said. Be very clear on what you know you need to do that moves the lever in your life. And
well, the driver. Yes.
Don't overcomplicate it.
Know your drivers, know your levers, right? Levers is the one we didn't really talk about, but levers are your people that you can call on or name drop to get to the next person.
Okay.
Right? So I would say I could easily name drop Shawn and it would easily create a new relationship. But that's because I have a relationship with you and I've built a personal connection with you. And so if I send a message to someone, I'm going to expose in a positive way that personal connection so that the person on the receiving end is like, damn, I should know Michelle too. So your levers can be both personal or professional. And I know we don't have time to like dig into that, but drivers and levers, right? So what are the things that drive your business? Who are the levers in your life that can help you get to that opportunity that you want? And then the outbound every single day is the task, right? One message.
You might be somebody that's watching this and you might say, well, Shawn, Michelle, I'm newer in the business. I'm newer to the area. I'm meeting people. I remember coming up when I was young, a lot of people wouldn't give me the time of day at 21. You know, I'm trying to wear suits and be a mortgage guy. And I was taught this, and this has been a hack, and I'll share it with everybody, but it goes right in line with what you just said. I didn't know enough people. I was younger, but I was willing to go meet people. My mentor told me to ask this question. Who's the most connected person you know in your life? And they will usually tell you, but not only will they only tell you, they'll sometimes ask you, be like, do you want me to put you in touch with them? And just 2 weeks ago, I said, you know, you kind of gotten away from that, you know, and I said, I was having a phone call with a gentleman that owns a private club downtown Nashville. He's a good friend of mine. I've been a member there for about 13 years. And I'm talking to him. We're just catching up. And I don't know why, it just came across my mind. And I said, Josh, by the way, who's the most connected guy you know? And he joked and he said, besides me? And I was like, well, you are one of the most connected guys I know. And right there, Michelle, he said, oh, you need to know this guy. And I won't say his name because people will probably know who he is. I didn't. I just heard the first name and the last initial. He said it. And then he said, I'll connect you guys. And I said, okay. I still don't know who this person is. He puts me on a 3-way text. By the way, why are the most successful people the ones that respond the fastest? This guy responds right away, and he goes, oh, nice to meet you, Shawn. He goes, absolutely, would love to talk. I'll send a separate text with my assistant to get us set up with some time.
Yeah.
Again, 15 seconds later, text comes through with him and his assistant. Come to find out, I did finally realize who this was. This gentleman's building like 2, if not 3 of the biggest buildings in downtown Nashville. Michelle, do you know how many mortgage lenders have been probably trying to get the preferred lender relationship
Tons.
on those buildings? And I got it all by asking, who's the most connected guy you know?
To someone you have a genuine, real relationship with. And that's the thing that people need to hear what you just said.
Yes.
Because what you just said is worth more money than anything either of us have said in the last hour.
It'll open up doors everywhere.
Every time. And that's one of the things for me is when I go to places, right? When I go to events and I speak at things, I'm not there to get the next gig, right? I'm there to sit at a table with a bunch of people that I don't know on purpose and just say, like, what's working for you?
Right.
Like, okay, so if let's say somebody came up to me, MortgageCon, where we were together, right?
Yeah.
Where we first finally got to meet in real life, which is just wild to me. But we're at MortgageCon and I see you and I'm like, I need to go talk to Shawn. But anyways, at MortgageCon, I was on a panel and I spoke about God and I openly talked about my faith, which is very, very important to me. But I had probably 10 people come up to me in the audience. All 10 of them said, we just love seeing a woman who's so profoundly confident in her faith, and you should have won that panel. That was pretty much what they said in Cliff Notes. But all 10 of those people, that became an opportunity for me to get to know them, right? Of like, okay, well, tell me what you loved about what I said. Like, I'd love to hear your story about how your relationship with God grew, right? So now I'm like genuinely in connection with all of these 10 people. I probably left MortgageCon with at least 5 new meetings with new people that are opportunity creators for my company, solely because I just listened to what somebody was saying to me and asked them more questions than I answered, right? That's it. It's just really insane to me.
That's a good place to bring it to a conclusion, because I think that brings us both. Everything we just said came to, like, accumulation of something that they can actually use and go do.
Yeah.
So, like, in closing, share something with us that you think that the audience needs to know. Tell them a little bit about how to get more information about getting in contact with you, and anything else that you'd like to share.
I think one of my thoughts that come to my mind that was said to me that I live by now is that somebody in a room, like let's say you go to a conference or you're going to a realtor lunch or whatever it is, or even just a small mastermind. Think of it this way. There's somebody in that room, whether they're sitting next to you or sitting at the table, that has half the talent as you, but has twice the discipline, and they will beat you. And I think about that all the time. I'm like, but nobody's going to outwork me. So for me, I will outwork everybody. And where that comes from is, I'm a younger female in a very male dominated mortgage space. And I'm okay with that. It's fine with me. But at the end of the day, I think part of it feels like fuel for my fire of what's the one thing I have to do every single day without fail. And if I do it, then there's nobody to blame other than me, right? Or if I don't do it, there's nobody to blame other than me. And one of the questions, you asked was mentors, which I think we can get to, but, drivers and levers is my big signature assignment, core homework assignment that I'm turning into its own product by itself, which I'm very, very excited about. It's a huge project that we've been working on for a long time. And if that's something that, somebody's listening to this and they're like, I need to know about that, that's where they can, send me a DM on Instagram, reach out to me on LinkedIn. Berman Media Social is my Instagram handle, so if they want to find me there. But and I answer all my own DMs just like I know you do.
Nice.
Which is important.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's my big thing. And then also they can buy the book. So I wrote my first book, The Black Line. It came out in August of last year. It's basically a playbook for everything we've talked about, but it's also a rallying cry for just people who are going through it, man, like who are just in it and they need that visual anchor in their own life. And God was mine. The Black Line was a figure of or a sort of a coming out for me of my swimming career and how it turned or translated into my business career. But do you want me to answer the mentor question?
Yes, I asked you a bit earlier, and we'll wrap
Yeah.
up with that.
Yeah.
Who is the
I also
primary,
want to hear yours. Can we do both?
Yeah, absolutely. The primary person in your life right now that you turn to, like that's, that you look up to, that you
Yeah.
ask those tough questions to. Who's that person?
Well, first and foremost is God, without question. And every day I wake up and I read the Bible in the morning, and I read it thinking there is nobody more almighty, right? There just isn't. And there's also somebody who is completely unbiased. He doesn't care how I feel today. He's just going to tell me like it is. And so for me, my life, especially the last 4 or 5 years, has just been full surrender, right? Of, okay, you got the plan and I'm just here living it. And when I'm feeling stressed, when I feel anxious, what does God say about that, right? He says, let him have it. His yoke is light, and his burden is easy. So God first and foremost, but Cindy Ertman is without a doubt my number one mentor in not just the mortgage space, but just in life, right? Whether, Dave and I are fighting, or whether I'm struggling with my kid, or whether I'm stressed out about the fact that I still have 10 pounds to lose with a baby that I just had 6 weeks ago. Cindy's my first phone call, and I just love her for that, because there are not enough Cindys in our world. And I know you know Cindy well, and not only is she a badass female originator, but she's just a really, really amazing human. And she's someone who saw me from the bottom, now I'm here, like the fun song. She's just someone who loves me unconditionally, but is also not afraid to say, Michelle, that was the wrong thing to do, or that was the right thing to do. And I think we need those people. That's
amazing. She's got definitely a heart of a teacher, but she's in her calling. You can see when you hear her and you talk to her. I would probably say that right in that same vein is I've had a lot of great mentors, mortgage people, business people, and there's several in my life right now that I could easily name. But I would have to say that number one in my life is a gentleman that's been with me for over 20 years. He sent me a audio prayer, every single Wednesday morning for 20 years and never missed one.
Wow.
He's battling cancer right now, and he still doesn't miss them. And he has been that man. He stood in my kitchen and probably helped me save my marriage. He's been there through company transition. And then he's been there just when I have business decisions, and he's not in the industry. He's just very spiritually wise and got so much sage and wisdom on him. And I know that asking him a question about the business part of it, he's going to give me the answer that I need to hear, because he's not in all the little minutia that we are. So I feel like everybody needs that person in their life. And in closing, I'll just tell you this. Michelle said something that kind of, describes my life. Growing up, my mother would always tell me, Shawn, you don't have to be the brightest, the fastest, the smartest, because I was a runt, I was bullied, all those sorts of things. But she told me something that I'll never forget, and we have this in common after hearing you say that, is she said, if you're more diligent and more consistent than everybody else, you'll beat out all the talent.
Yep.
And so if you're in a season where you're struggling, you're in a new season where you made changes, or you're just in a good season right now, just be consistent in what you are doing. Do it when you don't want to do it. Show up when you don't want to show up. Post it when you don't feel like posting it. And if you do that long enough, you're going to end up beating out all of your competition. So, Michelle, thank you for being here today. I really enjoyed it. And we're going to have to do it again, because we could have gone for 3 or 4 hours. I was going to say, we're going to
turn this into a Shawn Ryan episode that's 5 hours long, right?
Yeah. That's right.
So good.
Thank you all. Have a great day.